In 1933, at the height of the Great Depression, millions of American families survived without grocery stores, delivery trucks, electric dryers, or even reliable power. They didn't just get by, they adapted. They knew how to preserve food without refrigeration, collect clean water without a faucet, and fix what broke instead of replacing it. That kind of knowledge once lived in almost every home in America. Your grandfather probably knew some of it. Your great-grandmother almost certainly did. But somewhere between convenience and dependency, much of that wisdom quietly disappeared. And maybe that wasn't an accident. Because a person who can feed themselves, repair their own tools, and stay warm without outside help is hard to control, hard to frighten, hard to sell to. Today, we're uncovering 20 forgotten self-reliance skills that built America long before modern systems existed. Skills that helped families survive recessions, blackouts, crop failures, and brutal winters. And wait until you hear number 14, the simple food preservation method that kept meat edible for months without electricity. Number 7 could save your life in a water emergency. And number 3 is one of the oldest heating tricks in North America, and it still works better than many modern solutions. Because when systems fail, old knowledge doesn't. It becomes priceless. If you value forgotten skills, practical resilience, and the kind of knowledge your ancestors once considered ordinary, subscribe and join us. This isn't fantasy. This isn't prepper fiction. This is real American history, hard-earned wisdom forged through winters, droughts, depressions, and generations of self-reliance. Let's begin. Number 20. Saving seeds. Before seed packets lined store shelves, families saved seeds from their strongest crops every harvest. They chose the healthiest tomatoes, the hardiest beans, the corn that survived drought, pests, and poor soil. Over time, those plants adapted to local conditions, becoming uniquely suited to that land. That meant every garden improved with each passing year. Modern gardening turns seeds into disposable products. Hybrid varieties often can't reproduce true to type, forcing gardeners back to the store every season. But seed saving gives you something far more valuable than convenience: independence. It protects food security. It preserves regional plant varieties, and it keeps agricultural control in the hands of ordinary people. A single successful harvest can become the foundation for years of future food. That's not just gardening, that's sovereignty. Number 19. Line drying clothes. For thousands of years, the wind and sun handled laundry just fine. Your grandmother knew that sunlight naturally disinfected fabric, fresh air removed odors, and line-dried clothes lasted longer because they weren't constantly beaten by the intense heat and friction of electric dryers. Dryers are fast, yes, but they wear out fibers, shrink fabrics, and consume enormous amounts of energy. A clothesline requires no electricity, no maintenance contracts, and no monthly utility cost. In a blackout, it still works. In hard times, it saves money. And there's another benefit modern life forgot: rhythm. Hanging clothes outside forces you to slow down, to notice the weather, to work with nature instead of against it. That's a small act of independence, but small acts add up. Number 18. Sharpening your own tools. There was a time when a dull blade was seen as a sign of neglect. Axes, knives, hoes, chisels, these weren't disposable objects. They were trusted companions, often passed down for generations. A sharp tool is safer, more efficient, and far less exhausting to use. Dull blades slip, sharp ones bite cleanly. Yet many people today replace tools instead of maintaining them. That shift created dependence on constant purchasing rather than skill. Learning to sharpen with a stone, file, or strop reconnects you with your equipment. It extends the life of your tools dramatically. And when supply chains break or stores close, you won't be left holding useless steel. A sharpened blade is more than a tool. It's preparedness in your hand. Here's where things start getting uncomfortable, because the next few skills aren't just useful. They reveal how much basic independence modern life has quietly outsourced. Number 17. Mending and repairing clothing. A torn shirt once meant an evening's work, not a trip to the store. Patching knees, darning socks, replacing buttons, these were normal household tasks. Every stitch stretched the life of a garment. Clothing was expensive, labor was cheap, so families repaired what they owned. Today, clothing is cheap, but waste is everywhere. We've forgotten how empowering it is to restore something with our own hands. Knowing how to sew a seam or patch a jacket can save money, reduce waste, and keep essential clothing functional when replacement isn't an option. In an emergency, a needle and thread can be as valuable as any tool in your shed. Because resilience often looks like fixing what others throw away. Number 16. Cooking from scratch. There was a time when food didn't come with an ingredient label. Bread was baked at home, broth simmered all day, meals were built from basic staples: flour, beans, rice, vegetables, and eggs. Cooking from scratch gave families control over nutrition, cost, and supply. It also meant they could create meals even when stores were empty. Modern convenience foods save time, but they also create dependency on industrial systems. If you can turn simple ingredients into nourishing meals, you're far less vulnerable to shortages, inflation, or supply disruptions. And there's something deeper at work. Cooking from scratch teaches patience, adaptability, and confidence. It reminds you that food is not just purchased, it can be created. Rainwater collection. Long before municipal water systems, families harvested rain from rooftops into barrels and cisterns. That water watered gardens, cleaned tools, washed clothes, and when properly filtered or boiled, could even be made safe to drink. Rainwater harvesting turns every storm into a resource. Modern infrastructure made people forget that water doesn't begin at the faucet. But when droughts hit, pipes fail, or utilities shut down, stored water becomes invaluable. Even a modest rain barrel can supply hundreds of gallons over time. It lowers dependence, reduces water bills, and provides emergency reserves. Your ancestors didn't waste rainfall. Neither should you. Number 14. Salt curing meat. Before refrigeration, salt was one of the most important survival tools in America. Pork, beef, and fish were packed heavily in salt, drawing out moisture and preventing bacterial growth. Properly cured meat could last for months. That's how families survived winters. That's how pioneers crossed vast distances. That's how soldiers, settlers, and homesteaders preserved precious protein. Today, refrigeration hides just how fragile our food systems really are. A power outage of only a few days can destroy an entire freezer's worth of food. Salt curing provides a backup method that requires no electricity. It's ancient chemistry, simple, reliable, and astonishingly effective. And in a prolonged emergency, it could mean the difference between waste and survival. Root cellaring. Before refrigerators hummed in every kitchen, the earth itself kept food cold. Root cellars use the stable underground temperature to store potatoes, carrots, apples, onions, squash, and canned goods for months. Cool, dark, and humid, perfect conditions for preservation. Families could harvest in autumn and eat well through winter. Today, most people rely entirely on electrically powered refrigeration. But root cellaring requires no grid, no fuel, and no monthly bill. It extends harvest naturally while preserving food quality. In an age of rising energy costs and uncertain infrastructure, that old underground pantry suddenly looks very modern. This is the part nobody talks about. The most powerful survival skills aren't flashy. They're quiet, ordinary, and incredibly effective. And that's exactly why they matter. Number 12. Foraging wild edibles. Your ancestors didn't see weeds. They saw dinner. Dandelion greens, lamb's quarters, purslane, wild onions, and blackberries grew freely across fields, roadsides, and backyards. Many are richer in nutrients than store-bought produce. But modern life taught people to fear wild food. Some forgot how to identify it. Others stopped trusting what nature provides. Responsible foraging requires knowledge, caution, and respect. But once learned, it transforms the landscape. Suddenly, the world around you becomes a living pantry. That kind of awareness is difficult to replace. Number 11. Soap making. Soap wasn't always something you bought. It was something you made. Rendered animal fat, combined with lye, created a cleaning product essential for hygiene, laundry, and disease prevention. Families often made large batches that lasted for months. Today, most people have no idea how soap is produced. Knowing how to make soap means knowing how to maintain cleanliness when supply chains falter. And in any crisis, sanitation quickly becomes one of the most important factors in survival. Cleanliness isn't luxury, it's defense. Number 10. Food fermentation. Before canning and refrigeration, fermentation preserved food while making it more nutritious. Sauerkraut, pickles, sourdough, and yogurt lasted longer and supported gut health. The process uses beneficial microbes to protect food from spoilage. It's one of humanity's oldest preservation methods, and one of the smartest. Fermentation requires little more than salt, containers, and time. No electricity, no expensive equipment. Just biology working in your favor. A jar of cabbage can become a shelf-stable, nutrient-rich food source in weeks. That's not old-fashioned. That's brilliant. Number 9. Hand pump water access. Electric wells are wonderful until the power goes out. Then they become expensive holes in the ground. Many older homesteads used manual hand pumps as a backup or primary water source. Reliable, mechanical, and independent of the grid. If your well has water, a hand pump can access it regardless of electrical failure. In a prolonged outage, that can mean everything. Water is not optional, and any system that depends on uninterrupted electricity for survival deserves a backup. Your ancestors understood redundancy. Modern systems often don't. Wood heat and fuel management. Heating with wood isn't just about chopping logs. It's about understanding moisture content, seasoning, airflow, and efficient burn practices. A properly seasoned woodpile can heat a home through the harshest winter. It also provides cooking capability when power and gas fail. Families once measured security in cords of dry firewood, because stored heat is stored survival. Modern heating systems are convenient, but often fragile. Wood, by contrast, is local, renewable, and dependable. When managed correctly, it turns labor into warmth. And that trade has kept families alive for centuries. Number 7. Emergency water purification. Here's one skill every family should know. Clear water is not always safe water. Boiling remains one of the oldest and most effective purification methods. Sand, charcoal, and cloth filtration can remove debris before boiling. In some cases, solar disinfection can also help. Your ancestors treated water carefully because they understood what contaminated water could do. Modern plumbing made many people forget that lesson, but after floods, storms, or infrastructure failures, clean drinking water becomes one of the first major concerns. Knowing how to purify water can prevent illness when medical help may be limited. This isn't optional knowledge. It's survival at its most fundamental. By now, you may be noticing a pattern. These skills don't just save money, they restore control, and that changes everything. Pressure canning. Pressure canning allowed families to safely preserve low-acid foods like meats, beans, and vegetables. It turned seasonal abundance into year-round security. Pantries lined with jars weren't decorative, they were insurance. Today, most people depend on grocery stores operating continuously. But pressure canning creates a personal food reserve that doesn't require refrigeration. It reduces waste, stretches budgets, and builds resilience one jar at a time. A full pantry offers something money alone cannot always buy: peace of mind. Number 5. Composting. Nothing was wasted on an old homestead. Kitchen scraps, leaves, manure, and crop residue all returned to the soil. Composting transformed waste into fertility. It improved water retention, boosted yields, and reduced dependence on purchased fertilizers. Modern waste systems taught people to throw nutrients away. But healthy soil is the foundation of self-reliance. Without fertile ground, food security becomes fragile. Compost is slow magic, and it starts with what most people discard. Number 4. Bartering. Cash wasn't always available, especially during the Great Depression. So communities traded: eggs for flour, labor for repairs, firewood for medical care. Barter strengthened relationships while reducing dependence on formal systems. It required trust, reputation, and practical value. Those same principles still matter today. In times of economic instability, useful skills and tangible goods often become more valuable than currency. If you can repair, grow, build, or preserve, you possess tradable wealth. That's a powerful position to be in. Masonry heaters and thermal mass. Long before forced air systems, homes used thermal mass to store heat. Brick stoves, stone hearths, and masonry heaters absorbed intense heat from a short fire, then slowly released it for hours. This provided steady warmth with far less fuel. It was efficient, reliable, and beautifully simple. Modern heating often burns continuously. Thermal mass systems work smarter, not harder. They remind us that the best technology isn't always the newest. Sometimes it's the oldest. And in cold climates, that knowledge can dramatically reduce fuel needs. Number 2. Tool and equipment repair. Your grandfather likely fixed engines, sharpened blades, rebuilt handles, and repaired machinery, because replacement wasn't always possible or affordable. He understood every repair was a form of independence. Today, many products are designed to be replaced, not repaired. That creates a cycle of dependence. Learning basic repair skills, whether for small engines, hand tools, or household equipment, can save enormous money and extend the life of essential gear. More importantly, it keeps you capable, because a person who can repair their own tools is never entirely at the mercy of supply chains. Growing your own food. At the heart of self-reliance is one timeless skill: producing food. A garden, no matter how small, changes your relationship with survival. It teaches patience, weather awareness, soil health, and stewardship. It also gives you something increasingly rare in the modern world: direct control over a basic necessity. Your ancestors trusted gardens because gardens never cared about market swings, shipping delays, or store shortages. They responded to effort, to knowledge, to consistency. Even a few raised beds can provide meaningful nutrition, reduce grocery bills, and build confidence. Food security begins the moment you plant a seed. And maybe that's the real lesson. Self-reliance was never about rejecting society. It was about refusing to become helpless without it. These 20 skills once formed the backbone of American life. They carried families through blizzards, depressions, wars, blackouts, and uncertain times. Not because life was easier, but because people were more capable. They knew how to mend, preserve, grow, repair, and adapt. And that knowledge created something modern convenience often cannot: confidence, dignity, freedom. Because true security doesn't come from having access to everything. It comes from knowing how to do essential things yourself. So here's your challenge. Pick one of these forgotten skills and start learning it this week. Not next month, not someday, this week. And when you do, tell us in the comments, which skill would you learn first, and which one did your grandparents already know?